Hi, I'm Heidi, and I'm going to read the first chapter in Chickie Jurin's Toad Rodeo. Chapter 1, The Bad Example. I was born Ada Ray Jurin, but I didn't stay Ada for long. When I was little, I fell in love with chickens. People started calling me Chickie because I dreamed of being a chicken expert. Last year, the kids in my third grade class made fun of me. They thought my dream was nutty. We didn't get along so well. When school ended for the summer, our family moved from town to the ranch to be with Dad. At the ranch, I got to have chickens. But I'd only owned them for a few weeks when my favorite hen escaped. Her name was Winifred. She got out when I went into the coop to collect the eggs. She ran between my legs and slipped through the chicken yard gate. Sometimes I'd catch sight of Winifred behind the barn. Other times I'd see her hiding in the sagebrush or roosting on the corral fence. She was always too fast to catch. Winifred probably didn't know it, but she was in great danger. There were wild animals on our ranch: foxes, coyotes, skunks, rattlesnakes, and hawks. All of them would love to eat a juicy chicken. That's why I'd gotten up with the roosters this morning. That means really early because roosters get up really early. I had to find my hen. I needed to get her back to the safety of the chicken coop before it was too late. Unfortunately, I had no time to search for Winifred. I needed to keep my 8-year-old brother and his twin sister from drowning in the cistern. The cistern was buried under the ground behind our house and was used for storing water. It could hold as much water as a swimming pool. But the water in the cistern wasn't for swimming. It went to the toilet and the faucets in our house. If one of us kids fell into the cistern, we'd drown. None of us would be able to climb up its slippery walls and escape. But for some reason, the twins refused to keep away from the opening. The opening of the cistern was usually covered by a heavy cement lid. But Dad had slid the lid off earlier in the morning. He put a downspout into the opening to collect the water pouring from the roof gutter. Rain had poured down all night and was still falling. The rain barrel at the corner of the house was filling up fast. Since our ranch was in super dry cactus and sagebrush country, we collected every raindrop we could catch. I was chasing Kate through the mud, trying to keep her away from the cistern, when out of the corner of my eye, I saw Tom poke his head down through the opening. I caught my breath. If he fell in, I'd never get him out. Abandoning Kate, I sprinted after Tom. Dodging his kicking boot heels, I grabbed him by the back of his belt and pulled him away from the opening. He was 2 years younger than me and much smaller, but like a bantam rooster, he didn't act small. He was a fighting handful. "Keep away from the cistern, Tom! Ow!" I shouted as Kate pounded on my back with her hard little fists. "Leave him alone, Chickie," she cried. "He just wants to look down at the water." Ignoring the pain inflicted by her fists, I grabbed Tom's shirt and pulled him away from the opening. My boots slipped in the mud. Both of us rolled into a puddle. Pushing him onto his back, I pinned his wrists to the ground. "Stay away from that water," I said between clenched teeth. Kate seized my braids and pulled. "Get off him! Get off him, you bully!" An angry voice cut into our struggle. It was Aunt Tabitha, Dad's sister, visiting from town. She must have heard us fighting from the porch where she'd been doing yoga. "What's going on here?" she demanded, hands on her hips. She loomed above us in her saggy black leggings and gray tunic. Her stringy brown hair was pulled back into a ponytail the size of a toad leg. We scrambled up to stand before her, rumpled and muddy. I spoke first. "Kate and Tom were playing near the open cistern, Aunt Tabitha. They're not supposed to go near it. I was trying to keep Tom from falling in." Aunt Tabitha scowled. "Are you kidding me? I can't have a peaceful yoga workout because you kids are foolish enough to play near an open cistern?" Workout? My aunt had a strange idea about what work was. Lying around like a sunbathing hen didn't look like work to me. But I'd never tried yoga. Maybe it was harder than it looked. And maybe Aunt Tabitha would make the twins behave if I asked her nicely. It was worth a try. "Aunt Tabitha, remember when you told us that little kids are super easy to drown like chicks in a water bowl? I asked. The cistern is almost full. Can you please make the twins stay away from it? Kate tried to toss her long blonde hair, but the wet strands stuck to her neck. She folded her arms across her chest. Chickie was messing around the cistern first, she said. Yeah, we saw her hanging her head way down inside, Tom said, tucking his muddy shirt into his wet jeans. He kicked his legs out to shake off the mud clinging to his boots. Why did they always blame me? I glared at them. I was only checking to make sure my hen hadn't fallen in the water, I said. You guys know Winifred's still on the loose. Aunt Tabitha drew the side of her hand across her throat in a vicious slashing motion. Quiet, all of you, she yelled. I can't believe I agreed to babysit you while your mom interviews at that rinky-dink country school. I don't know what she's thinking. They'll never hire a pregnant woman who can't even control her own kids. She jabbed a bony forefinger at us. I came out here in the rain to get you because your mother says it's time for breakfast. You should be in the kitchen helping her, Chickie. Shame on you. When I was 10, I cooked for my whole family and a crew of cowboys that worked on the ranch. The way Aunt Tabitha told it, she basically ran Grandpa's ranch when she was a kid. If she knew so much about ranching, why had Grandpa left his ranch to Dad instead of her? Why had Aunt Tabitha used the money she'd inherited to start a yoga studio instead of going into ranching herself? And why wasn't she helping Mom? These questions tingled at the tip of my tongue, but I said nothing. I couldn't afford to have Aunt Tabitha storm back to town. I needed her to stay. Mom wouldn't be able to go to her interview if she didn't have a babysitter. My older brother, Stephen, was 15. He could take care of me and the twins, but Dad had promised Stephen he could go with him to the cattle sale in town. Since Aunt Tabitha was visiting, Dad asked her to keep an eye on us for a few hours while Mom went to her teaching interview. Mom hadn't liked quitting her teaching job in town to live in the country when Dad inherited Grandpa's ranch, and the ranch was too far from town for her to commute to work, even if she'd wanted to live there. The house and barn were run down, primitive, she'd called them. The internet was super slow, and we could only get enough cell service to call someone if we climbed to the top of Timber Ridge, a big hill behind our house. Sometimes we only had enough cell service to text. Feeling so disconnected from the world made Mom cranky. She had hinted that she wanted to move back to town. I couldn't let that happen. Chickens weren't allowed in town. My dream was to be a chicken expert. It would be harder for me to become a chicken expert if I didn't have chickens. I really hoped Mom would get the teaching job at the country school. Maybe she wouldn't mind living on the ranch if she could teach. We'd get to stay and I could keep my chickens. Aunt Tabitha wiped the rain from her face with the hem of her tunic. She tightened the rubber band on her ponytail before speaking. Chickie, you were a bad example to the twins. They saw you playing around the cistern. Now they want to play there too. So it's your job to keep them away from it after breakfast. I'll be busy finishing my yoga session. Then I have better things to do than guard a cistern. My heart sank. But I can't spend all day watching Kate and Tom, I protested. I have to find Winifred. She's probably lost in the rain somewhere. Don't argue with me, she snapped. This is the consequence of your action. Deal with it. You played near the cistern. Now you have to make sure the twins stay away from it until it stops raining and your dad puts the lid back on. The twins are too young to be trusted around water, and don't you dare disturb me after breakfast. Daily yoga helps me keep my patient spirit. With that, Aunt Tabitha swished back through the mud to the house. I groaned. Mom was always trying to teach us kids to be good citizens. What you say and what you do matter. Actions have consequences. I hated hearing those words, especially from Aunt Tabitha. I didn't always think before I acted, but she was so unfair. When I checked the cistern for Winifred, I hadn't known the twins were spying on me. At least Kate and Tom couldn't drown while they were eating breakfast. Thank you for listening.